Hi Singapore, I'm Tanarumanga, former New Zealand rugby captain, and you're listening to The Boys on 938 Live.
From 938 Live.
This is Formula One driver Fernando Alonso.
Hi Singapore, I'm Jürgen Klinsmann.
Hi, I'm Martin Tyler.
This is Annika Sorensen.
Hi Singapore, this is Johnny Wilkson. You're locked on to the best in sports. Cheers.
You're listening to Singapore's only sports talk show on radio. A good Saturday and welcome to SportsZone right here on 938 Live. I'm Noor, Farhan, and with me on the show today is my colleague Noah Tan. And today you'll be joining the scrum with the men from Singapore Rugby. They'll be in the studio to tell us about their year ahead. And they'll also be telling us what to expect at the World Club Tens Championship that's happening in June to usher in the new national stadium at the Sports Hub. Now let's introduce our guests, shall we, Noah?
Sure thing, Farhan. And with us in the studio today is National Coach Inoke Afiaki, National Players Gaspar Tan and J. Haikal Jailani. And they're joined by the Singapore Rugby Union's Business Manager Douglas Danapal and Vice President of High Performance Jonathan Liao. Welcome to the show, guys. Okay, well, let's get the ball rolling with you, Douglas. It's going to be a very busy year in rugby. The crown jewel of the 2014 calendar is, of course, the World Club Tens Championships that will be officially be the first competition that will be held at the new National Stadium. Now, some of our listeners might not be familiar with the event, so do share with us in brief what the World Club Tens is all about.
Okay, so we're having Northern and Southern Hemisphere teams play in Singapore for the first time. Okay, and instead of a 15s game, it's going to be 10 aside. 7s, you get the fast-paced guys. 10s is a hybrid of the 15s and 7s game. So you get all the popular names, famous names that you see on the weekend coming to play in Singapore at the National Stadium. 7s players, you don't see much of them. So this is a chance for you to see your legends and the guys that you see every weekend on TV. So.
And it's different from the 7s game, isn't it? Because there's more tackling, more power involved this time, because 7s is just pure running, right?
Correct. So it's not just the big fast guys, but you get the big strong guys as well, the props, the big and heavy props inside as well. So it'll be interesting.
Okay, now the pull factor is, of course, as you mentioned, the players and the high quality teams that are slated to play in the World Club Tens. I mean, Australian giants Brumbies have signed up, and very recently top French side Biarritz Olympic have also come on board. But what can the men on the street who are unfamiliar with these teams expect to see when the action kicks off in about 2 months?
Okay, there's no point having an event if it's not for Singaporeans and it's not for us. So you get this top quality professional rugby that's being played, but also what we have is our national under-16s, our Singapore team being represented. We also have our legends, our Singapore legends, who will also be playing in the stadium. So if I'm not going to go see the Brumbies or Olympic Biarritz, I do want to. We've got a few other teams confirmed as well, but hey, I'm going to go see Singapore. And I'm going to see people like Rizal Sat, Sam Chan, Liao Kim Liat, Liao Kim Swan, if they want to put their boots on again and take the field against other teams.
And these games will be like the curtain raiser, right?
Correct, yes.
Before the actual games itself.
And we've made sure that the first game that happens at the National Stadium is a Singapore game.
Alright then, now let's pass the figurative rugby ball to John Liao, who's the head of high performance. Now John, I was at the unveiling of Biarritz as the next team to feature at the Sports Hub, but what can you tell us about the other teams that could possibly feature in the Club Tens? Now I understand that there are teams in the Northern Hemisphere that are in discussions to come over to Singapore. What's the latest update on that?
Well, I mean, we've left it to the event organisers, Clarinet, to come and get that up, but I think the updates we have is that it's very positive. They've just come back from New Zealand with very positive news, which is in the pipeline soon. I think they've also made plans to announce another Northern Hemisphere club that has already confirmed. I think at the end of the day, it's very positive news. They are not looking just to fill up the numbers, and all these clubs have agreed to bring in their top players, and that's part of the agreement when they come in. So we as Singapore will be very positive of the fact that events promoter is looking to do that commitment as well, to make sure it's not just for show. It's real guys that are coming in to really give in a very quality product.
So quality over quantity, that's what you're saying, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, at the end of the day, to put it in a football sense for the man on the street, it's your Chelsea, it's your Liverpool coming down to actually play, and they're not going to bring in their under-19 reserves. They're bringing in your Steven Gerrards of the rugby game to promote the sport.
Well, but what do you say are the main obstacles in attracting even more top clubs to play in the tournament? I mean, it's an inaugural event. It's the first time ever it's being held. But is money perhaps a cause of concern?
Well, the clubs don't. There's no prize money in that sense. The clubs are coming in very much for exposure. I think the date that we have looked at with the event organisers is made it such that the Northern Hemisphere teams, it's your off season, so it's a preparation, and for the Southern Hemisphere teams, they're in season, so it's a height of their season. It's a break. They're looking to just get themselves going and not just sit around too much as well. I don't think it's a money issue. It's the first time the event is going to happen, and surprisingly, the names that have already been mentioned with the organisers are very positive. So we're looking at where they come up with at the end of it. I think we're very positive that the 8 teams that come this year will actually make rugby guys who have followed the game for a long time very happy. And it's a long-term plan, right? It's 3 years. How do we build up upon that?
So what are some of the names, some of the star players that are coming down? Any specific names?
Is it the who's who of
World
Rugby?
I mean, at the end of the day, like I said, we as the SRU are sanctioning the tournament, but we're obviously waiting for the events organisers to let us know what's going on. But with the Brumbies, for example, you've got guys that possibly David Pocock is in rehab. He's an Australian Wallaby. He might turn up because it might be his game to come back. You've got guys there in the team that even legends, they're coaches. So you've got Stephen Larkin, that's a legend himself, coming down to coach the Brumbies. You've got Serge Blanco, who a lot of the older guys would know from French rugby with Olympic Barrettes. I think Cardiff Blues has been a name that has been dropped as well. They're from Wales. They've got quite a good team as well. So you've got guys that are professional players coming in, the internationals, to really show off the game.
All right, Coach. Let's move on to you, Coach Inoke. Let's continue to tackle the topic of the World Club 10s head-on. How do you foresee the tournament having an immediate impact on the local rugby scene? I mean, would the young school player of today come and see the event and tell himself, hey, I want to play high-level rugby like these guys someday?
Okay, it's 10s rugby, as Douglas mentioned earlier, it's closely linked to 15s rugby. There's more strategy. So the 15s rugby players, or the players that are involved with 15s, different sizes, different speeds, will find themselves more useful in rugby 10s. In rugby 7s, it's fast becoming just for the fast athletes, and that's a little bit too specific. So it's we're losing a lot of good rugby if we're going to just focus on 7s. So our players playing 10s rugby is something that they can get their teeth into. So there's tournaments all around the world for 10s, and that could be the next big category for rugby worldwide. At the moment, we realise 7s rugby is pretty amazing and everyone loves it, but 10s rugby has a place, and there's a lot of rugby players that are saying, look, we can't play rugby 7s, we're not fast enough. Okay, but rugby 10s is their game. And again, it helps that development and links them up for rugby 15s. And the strategy used in rugby 15s is more closely linked to rugby 10s than rugby 7s.
I see. So rugby 10s is more of a hybrid. It allows more people different, because some people are just born faster.
Correct. I was pretty fast when I was young.
Okay, Coach, I'd like to sidetrack a little bit, if you may. As you know, your good friend Tana Umaga is the coach of the Asia Pacific Dragons. There's also former All Blacks man Justin Marshall, who's doing some coaching as well. Then there's you, who's been there and done that with the Tongan national team, and you are coach now yourself. So when you see some of the former international stars giving back to the game as mentors, was it how you imagined life would be like after your playing days?
I really didn't give thought to too much of what was going to happen after rugby. I managed to do a science degree and majored in physiology, and did some sports science, postgraduate stuff in sports notation, which is the statistical side of what happens in a game and how you get better. Then that just logically pointed to the coaching side of it. So it's just, I'm passionately, in love with rugby and other sports. And I would like to help make athletes better, whether that's in a coaching capacity. I'm actually the technical director, and I've got a lot of good coaches here in Singapore now in place, and they're doing the hard yards to get and stay on the same sort of format that I want Singapore doing and what they're good at. And so this team's preparation going into the A5N is as good as we can get, given that, because we're still an amateur nation. Just I'll sidetrack as well. We've got playing against, say, Japan, who are professional. Philippines, they pay their players. We got to remind everyone out there that we still have guys that work 9 to 5 hours, and they come in and train after that. So it's really tough for us to compete at that level when it's a long day.
Right then, you're listening to SportsZone on 938 Live, and today we catch up with our guests from Singapore Rugby. Now, if you've just joined us, with us in the studio is national coach Inoke Afiaki, national players Gaspar Tan and J. Heikel Jailani, and they're joined by the SRU's business manager Douglas Danapal and vice president of the high performance program Jonathan Liao. Now, J. Heikel, it's your turn now. Now, earlier we mentioned the Asia Pacific Dragons. It's a team that you had a chance to play with in the Hong Kong Tens tournament last month. And to boot, your team won the whole competition as well in Hong Kong, right? Now, how would you sum up the whole experience?
For me, I think at first when I went there, I was very nervous. Didn't know anyone there, so I was the only one from Singapore. But I was greeted by Tana at the hotel, so it was really very nice. Along with Hale, he was one of the veterans in Tongan team. The first training was really, really nervous for me because I felt like I had to show a lot, I had to prove a lot for my place being there. But the guys really made me feel welcome, made me feel part of the team instantly. They were really very nice, cracking jokes around me, and just like how the Islanders do it, they like to have fun during training. So the training was really sharp, short, a quick 1 hour session, high level quality. The passing skills and everything else was just really great to see, and the way they communicated with each other, and I could see, how really professionals do it in the game.
And you got to play as well in the tournament, right? How was that?
Yeah, I was really shocked that I was actually starting in all the games. I played 5 games there all the way up to the semi-finals. It was really, really something different from what I usually play. Obviously, playing against guys like Matt Turner, who was one of the key England Sevens player, and playing against Tuilangi and everyone else. It was really great to see and feel the level of intensity, the level of hits that was in the game, and just how everything was.
From that tournament alone, do you feel that you improved? You learned quite a lot from that itself?
Yeah, definitely. When you're around great players and professionals who have been in the game for so long, and you've been training with them and everything, you learn a lot, and they teach you a lot. They are there to guide you. I learned so many things in such a short space of time that I feel that a lot of people only learn in a lot of years. So yeah.
All right, and were you surprised to have been chosen in the first place to go to Hong Kong? Why did you suppose they chose you?
Yeah, definitely I was really surprised. I guess I somehow knew that I was shortlisted, but why I was chosen was up to the coaches. I didn't really go much into it. I just, when they gave me the chance, I just took it and go. So I was really excited, at the same time nervous, but yeah, really grateful and humbled that I was chosen.
All right, and Gaspar, on to you. You may be injured for now, and I believe you mentioned that you were injured during a game, dislocated your shoulder. So, and that means you can't convert tries, but I think you can handle conversations now, right? So, in all seriousness, though, as a rugby fan as well on the inside, how excited are you for the local scene with all that's happening this year?
I'm definitely really excited for local scene this year, especially at the start of the year. You got the TV series Scrum on Channel U, which actually a lot of non-rugby playing people actually watch the show and a lot more understand the game. So from that, and then we move on to the news of Jay being able to play in the Hong Kong Sevens with a future Super Rugby team, and we slowly move on to A5N, and there's the World Club 10s and also the Tri Nations coming up. So it's a lot for the local scene that is coming up, and everybody can look forward to. So it's really an exciting thing for everybody, I would say, in the local scene. Schools, young kids, and even the adults playing.
So you think that 2014 is the year that local rugby standards and awareness will rapidly improve from here on out? Is the sort of the year that rugby really takes on as a major sport?
Yeah, definitely.
In Singapore.
So hopefully in year 2015 be even bigger and bigger. Yeah, but definitely it's moving up, and the awareness is getting greater by the people in Singapore.
And with all the games being played by our local boys this year alone, do you think it opens up the chance for injuries or even burnout when it comes to the national squad?
I would say the preparation is not too short, but also not too long. I mean, eventually you cannot predict accidents. All you can do is just prepare for it. So the preparation from the players themselves is really important. And accidents do occur, so it's just unfortunate that it happens. So you just got to just prepare yourself and just be really aware on stuff and what to do, what to eat, and what to train about. So that's about it, actually. Yeah.
All right, now, John, let's still talk about the World Club 10s for now. Now, I've been meaning to ask you earlier. Now, the World Club 10s, would it affect the attendances of long-running SEC 7s this year? Would there be like a clash? I mean, we spoke about this briefly, and then could you elaborate a bit on that?
No, I think, like I said, it's part of the ecosystem. So, I mean, everyone's alluded to a very packed year for Singapore Rugby in a lot of events, and I think it's horses for courses. They're different things for everybody. You know, the SEC Sevens has been around for 67 years. It's entrenched in our Singapore rugby calendar. In fact, we take very much notice of what happens around that to make sure that we don't cannibalize something that's noted not only in Singapore but in the region as well. A lot of the other regional unions take notice of the tournament. I think the World Club 10s is a completely different thing altogether. It will coexist with things like the IRB 7s when we were bidding for it, if we do get it, as well as the SEC 7s. It's all part of an ecosystem that we need to make sure that we space out the events properly, and also make sure that we link it up in different things. Like what Inoki was saying, 7s and 10s are very different, caters both on field to different people and off field as well. I think spectators as a whole, you can never say there's too much of a good thing, I would imagine. And like I said, the SEC 7s caters very much to a different crowd or to a different aspect that we want to make sure that we work with the Singapore Cricket Club to develop further.
And Douglas would like to add on to that. No, I know that the events are like spaced out apart, right? Do you think there might be some sort of spillover effect, as in the fans watching the 10s will watch the 7s and so on?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the SEC 7s has been around 67 years. Yeah. And we've had the RB World 7 Series in Singapore before as well. And we are currently bidding for the 7 Series for 2015 onwards, and the Rugby World Cup 7s as well in 2018. So the more rugby, I believe, the merrier. It gives kids an opportunity to actually see live rugby, professional players, international stars at the stadium or other venues in Singapore. Plus, what else is going to happen is there's going to be a draw factor with, if you come and watch, you can also join in and play as well, because there are different tiers in which you can participate. Or if you just need to chaperone your kids to the event, there's going to be a food stall for you and fun and games and other activities as well. So it's not just about the rugby, but it's about the whole experience and making it a family day out as well.
Now, before we go to the news, could you give us the ticketing details of the World Club 10s and what are the fringe activities surrounding the event in June?
Okay, for the ticketing details, all right, it's $40 a day or $70 for a weekend pass, but there's a special offer on for SAFRA members, which is $15. So it makes it very easy for everyone to attend. Kids under the age of 12 enter for free with an accompanying adult. Of course, someone needs to look after them. There's special packages for schools as well. I know a lot of parents are working. They can't bring their kids, so they just need to appoint one guardian to go along with them. The activities around them, it's going to be a big, nice village surrounding the stadium as well. And we've got a few other tiers of games. Besides the events that are happening in the National Stadium, you're going to have a men's open clubs tournament, a veterans over 35 tournament as well. You're going to have under 16 and under 14 and all the way down to minis. So we've covered all age groups, right? And so
it's like a rugby carnival.
It's a rugby carnival. And what we decided to do as well is have the finals of all these tournaments, all right, in the National Stadium. So that's your chance to play there on Sunday. So the tournament might happen on a Friday or Saturday, and then you play on a Sunday with the rest of the big names who are actually coming down.
Awesome stuff there. Well, time now for the news. When we continue, we'll be chatting about Singapore Rugby's plans for the rest of the year and beyond. So stay tuned, because it's all happening right here on SportsZone on 938 Live.
Hey Singapore, this is All Blacks legend Jonah Lomu, and you're listening to the best in sport on 938 Live.
Welcome back to part 2 of SportsZone on 938 Live. I'm Noor Farhan together with my colleague Noor Tan as we chat about the local rugby scene. Now, if you've just joined us, in the first half of the show, we talked about the World Club 10s Championship happening here in June. And in the second half of the show, we'll be chatting more about the national team and their endeavours later this year.
But first, let's reintroduce our studio guests, and they are national coach Inoke Afiaki, national players Gaspar Tan and J. Haikal Jailani, and they're joined by the SRU's business manager Douglas Danapal and vice president of high performance program Jonathan Leo.
Right now, Inoke, let's begin with you. Before we get to the preps for the SEA Games, let's talk about the Asian Five Nations, or the A5N. Now, from what I understand, Singapore isn't part of the 5 countries playing.
Okay, there's several tiers. So the top one, Premiership, that's occupied by Japan, Hong Kong, Korea, and currently Philippines and Sri Lanka. So we're on the next tier down, Division 1. But what's pretty distinct about that Premiership is that these countries are paying their players. Japan have got a pretty big professional scene. I played there myself for 5 years, and it's full of expats, full of some of the greatest players on the planet. And they operate at a different level to Hong Kong is probably the next big country where they're gunning to play a professional league, and it's really tough for amateur countries like ourselves to be on the same playing level with that, and so that's why we're in Division 1. If and when some money rolls into Singapore and we can start a semi-professional league here and start paying our players to spend a bit more time training, then you'll see a direct correlation between us now competing with Japan and Hong Kong. But we have to wait for that money to roll in. We need money to give incentives to the boys to spend a bit more time training. So when that happens, and I pray it soon, then we can see Singapore rugby really blossom.
Well, who are we up against in Division 1?
Division 1, unfortunately this year, because the HSBC have pulled out their sponsorship, we're only going to play Dubai UAE in Dubai. So this one-off game will keep us in Division 1. Why does that happen? Again, HSB pulling out of their sponsorship means the Premiership drops from 5 teams now to 3, and the bottom 2, likely to be Philippines and Sri Lanka, will drop down to Division 1 next year. So the top 2 teams in Division 1 this year will stay in Division 1 for next year.
Well, how strong are UAE though?
It's looking at them last year, they looked very good. They played against Japan and kept Japan to like a 50-point spread, and that's pretty impressive. Japan have beaten countries in the top 10 in the world, so that's and so they should be beating most teams by 60 to 80 points, and that includes Hong Kong. And then they played against Philippines. Philippines showed us probably the way to beat them. Philippines had a good mix of good forward play, but they had some pretty good backs. They could run in some good tries. So this is where I'll be watching and putting pressure on our little young Jay Haikal to score some tries.
Our secret weapon right here in the studio,
yes,
right?
One of the secret weapons.
Without revealing too much, yeah.
No.
All right, on that note, Jay Haikal, on to you. You're one of the most promising young ruggers in the country, but you've never played in an international 15s game, have you? I mean, do you think it'll be a more difficult prospect as compared to sevens or even 10s rugby?
I don't think difficult is the word. I mean, as we spoke about it earlier, sevens is much more of a free-flowing game, and 10s is a hybrid between the sevens and 15s. And I think 15s is it's a lot more physical, so you're getting into much more collisions with the big boys. So I feel that what's different about it is that it's not much more running, but it's much more of going in, much more tackling, and it's just bigger hits.
So what do you see your role in the 15s game? I mean, tactically.
I guess it's not much different from the sevens. I mean, I'm just put out on the wing and let the big boys do the work in the middle, let them bring it in, and just hopefully the ball goes out to me and I'll score the tries.
Oh, wow. That's a good plan.
Okay, so what are some experiences that you'll be looking forward to in the national team?
Going up to Dubai, it's my hoping to get my first cap there. So it's up with the senior men's team for the 15s. So I'm looking to just looking around what the game brings about in an international level for the 15s, and how just compare it with how I play in Singapore, and looking to see how much more I can learn from that.
Right, so when is this game again against the UAE?
We're flying off on Monday, and the game is on Wednesday. It's local time. In Dubai, it's about 7:30.
Right then, now Gaspar, you can't join the team, of course, because you're injured with your elbow injury. But can you tell us more about how you sustained the problem and what are some of the other key games that you'll likely miss out, not just for your country but for your club as well?
Yeah, I actually got it from our final match, which was actually a week ago, and it was just maybe 5 minutes in the game. And
which match was this again?
Sorry?
Which match was it again?
It was in the Super League last week when we played in the finals against SEC. And it was about 5 minutes, and then I ran through and I tried to hands off a guy, and instantly I felt a cracking sound, and I was on the ground. So instantly I knew I was out for the season, and being so close to the tournament, that's a week away, and I know I was out. So the remaining of club season will just be the club sevens, which will happen in June. There'll be like 3 series, and I'll probably miss that. And hopefully I'll be back in August to play the Tri-Nations.
Yeah, but you're in the studio with a cast of some sort. Can you tell us more about that contraption you have that restricts your elbow movement?
Yeah. It's actually an elbow brace. It's to constrict me so that I cannot bend it too further, or I cannot straighten it. Yeah, so that's the doctor's advice, not to straighten it too much before. If not, it might pop out or the ligament will not hold.
Yeah, but you still have to eat, right? I mean, how is that coming along?
Currently I'm using my left hand. I'm actually a right-hander, but I'm just trying out the left hand a bit more, and hopefully when time goes by I can use back my right hand.
Right, now your next tournament is likely the Asian Tri-Nations, right? Do you think the team has got a chance there this year?
Capability is always there, with us being well prepared now towards the A5 end, and hopefully from here we can continue progressing, and if all the programs are right and the players stick to it, eventually when come August we'll be having a very, very strong team, and it's really, really a good chance for us to take the tournament.
All right. No, you'd like to add on?
I'd just like to interrupt here. Casper, we've lost him, and it's so close to the A5N, and Casper was actually our captain for our men's team, man. And so it's really tough to lose a guy of Casper's caliber in the team. He's easily in the starting 15, so we're going to miss him this year. But it opens up some new guy to come in and see whether he can do a job as big as what Casper has done for many years. So it's so thank you, Casper, for training hard and making us awesome for the last year that I've been here in Singapore, and we just have to hopefully have the guy that steps in can do a tidy job.
Right.
All right, John, on to you. You. As the high performance manager, you're in charge with the long-term planning of Singapore Rugby as well. So what are some of the future things you guys are looking into, for example, in the next 3 to 5 years?
I think, as what Inoki has alluded to as well, we're looking at structures that one can translate from a professional kind of situation to where we are in an amateur kind of situation. It starts from simple things like getting proper strength and conditioning programs up for our players that they can take away and do it at lunchtime in the gym. As simple as that, to more in-depth technical stuff that we want to try and impart with them. Do we get guest coaches in? Do we look at proper training stints like what Jay went on to in Hong Kong? It's all lining all these up. Opportunities are definitely opening up for us. There are a lot of pipelines that are coming up. We've got partners coming in with offers to possibly host a super franchise, things like that. The IRB sevens and all that. So there's a lot of stuff, but these are events. The main job of the SRU is to develop and as well as see how we can push up our players to a level that my national coach here is happy with in playing Premiership. But it's really how do we do it without changing too much and at the same time within our own capabilities of what we have now in Singapore.
All right, now Douglas, speaking on development, let's bring things a little closer to home. There are, of course, grassroots initiatives done by Singapore Rugby as well. There was the SportCares thing you guys did recently as well. Could you share with us about that?
Yeah, we're actually working closely with SportCares as well, and I think we had our 4th session with them. Like I said earlier, during events, what we try to inculcate is the family and the community involvement as well. So when we had our Asian Tri-Nations last year, that was the first time we got involved with SportCares. We did a session with them during the Asian 7 series last year as well. This year we had a new program, the Young Mentors program, which was someone that led it was also Mr. Chon Liao here as well. So we're looking at a longer term program with sport cares and with the young mentors as well. So we had the girls from the National Academy, the Standard Chartered Bank National Rugby Academy, come down and coach the kids. And without any reward, some of our staff as well who were on MC or on leave, they came back as well because they saw value in this program. And the kids really, really enjoyed it. So there was ultimate frisbee and rugby going on at the same time. And we look forward to having the program in the National Stadium as well. Caranet Sports Marketing, of course, who runs or is the promoter for this event, it's their tournament, has kindly agreed to have the kids from Sport Cares in the stadium as the first thing.
Well, you mentioned the kids in rugby. It just brings me to the next topic about the school scene. Now, for starters, the B Division Boys Final, it's next week, isn't it?
Yes, it is next week. Both semi-finals were recently over, and it's going to be a repeat. The last time these two schools met, it was 21-22 or 21-20. It was a very close score line, and it's going to be a cracking final.
You got two powerhouses of Singapore Rugby with all their tradition and everything. So hopefully supporters can behave themselves and we have a good game.
They should behave themselves. It's in the home team academy. So,
well, before we go on to the traffic, maybe John, a quick preview of these two teams. Who do you think is going to win it? It's pretty exciting.
I'm biased. I can't say I'm
Careful, John.
I'm very biased, and I'm sitting on it. Look, at the end of the day, I was speaking to one of the coaches the other day. It's who wants to win it. Both teams are very equally matched. They've got a lot of history and, of course, a lot of old boys looking over their shoulder as well. But for 16, 17-year-old, it's your pinnacle of your rugby career, and it's good fun. It hopefully drives them to play more rugby and to go further for the national team.
Yeah, it brings back memories, right? I mean, when you talk about it.
Yeah, it does actually. It does.
All right. Now we'll be going for a quick traffic update, but when we come back, we'll continue our chat with Singapore Rugby, and time now for Traffic Watch.
Hi Singapore, this is Richie McCaw, captain of the New Zealand All Blacks, and you're mauling with the best in sports on 938 Live.
We're in the final stretch of SportsZone as we catch up with our guests from our local rugby scene, and let's get right into our chat. Now, we spoke of the youth in the game, but what about the senior 15s? How do you think the guys can improve further in their craft at the highest level?
Okay, as I mentioned a little bit earlier, it was just a situation where we're maximising the amount of time we can get from them after work, and we're pretty much at the limit where we can be with the way things are, and we're competing at Division 1, and this is probably where we should live if we're amateur. The trick here now is, again, with the current men's team, is to stay here, and if we do get a bit of injection of cash with a cash sponsor, we can now play with the amount of time they can dedicate more to training. So it's there is a correlation. The more you train, the better you get. So we need them to be slightly stronger and faster, more resilient to injury. So we're asking a lot of our boys to train harder at the moment, but the number of hours is actually causing them more injuries. So, I mean, if we do that with a bit more care in the future and we refine our training regimes, then we're going to minimise the injuries and have them being super athletes, which where professional rugby's are now. They are super athletes. We're just good athletes at the moment. In preparing all this, again, we go reverse back down to the academies. These guys, if we can get 2 years of good solid training with them in the gym, they can come out being very buffed up teenagers. At the age of 20, you can have guys as big as any professional rugby player in the world, and then we just refine them from there. So it's I think if we can really attack the academy side and get them buffed up at an early age, because they're full of testosterone, so that we can actually buff them up quite easily. And then from there, they're pretty much ready for the big contact.
But you mentioned at the age of 20. What about national service? How would that affect? I mean,
national service, they do a lot of training. It's probably not the type of training we want them to be doing, but for rugby sevens, it's ideal. They come out of NS and they can run all day. So NS actually produces really good rugby sevens athletes. But I want for 15s some guys that are buffed up, and if they can. If they somehow can convince them, like Arnold Schwarzenegger did with the German army, to have a tank full of iron so he can pump himself up and have training sessions whenever he wanted in a tank. So his tank was kitted out and souped up with lifting material. I don't know if that'll happen, but we need our NS athletes that are 15s players to do a special program to buff themselves up.
Yeah, just to add on, I think the program is very important. I think at the end of the day, when a rugby player goes into national service, the demands on his body is very different from when he was competing on the pitch. And we've had a lot of case studies of guys that go in and they've lost a lot of muscle and weight because just the demands are too high. When you're running up a hill with a backpack, it's very different from the pitch. We are trying to see how we can work. Ideally, we would like to work with NS to get special programs on as simple as how much food you put into your body, to make sure that we at least get some maintenance with them, to get them at least at the base level. Like what Inoki said, they'll be fit, but are they going to be strong? It's a completely different thing altogether that we want to try and work with them as well.
And Jay, do you agree with that? I mean, in NS you do a bit of different things, but the training can be incorporated somehow with rugby.
Yeah, I mean, looking around NS and knowing about it, there's a lot of running. I have a lot of friends who go in and out and they lose and they come out really, really skinny. So, I mean, it's not ideal for 15s rugby, but I'm guessing if you come out with a proper program, a great program that suits the rugby at the same time, it complements the NS training, I mean, it will suit up for everyone.
And you have yet to go NS, right? You mean?
Yeah, I just got my enlistment letter yesterday.
Okay,
so,
yesterday.
Yeah, so, I mean, I'm looking to work around it. So, yeah.
Gaspar, you've been there, done that in NS. What are your thoughts as a former NSF playing a rugby?
I mean, with in the past there's SAFSA rugby, so we can always train from that. But during my time already, there's no more SAFSA rugby, so players actually really count on whether they are stay in or stay out. In the case if you're an officer or a sergeant, that's more or less like rugby is. You can't really train a lot. You can only play in the weekends. But for those that are in the PES C, then you can actually fork out more time. So if the program, like Jay say, if it's right, then more players can be able to train, and if we can cooperate well with the bin dev side, and eventually rugby will be able to be more structured and players will be able to train better. Yeah, because the current situation is still tough for them, but hopefully it will work out in the future. Yeah, so hopefully we're looking forward to that. And
Douglas, perhaps you'd like to jump in on that? In the short term, what are we going to do?
In the short term, okay, we're already in 65 schools, actually 64. One of the schools actually shut down due to reasons unknown. We're trying to revive that at the moment. And when I mean these 65, these are institutions all the way from primary school to university, including the polys. We've got 65 active. We've also been into another 60 over other schools with tag programs, schools and institutions with tag programs. But once again, like what Inoki says, it's about the money as well. We have a limited pot or pool of money, so we need to depend on these large events to bring in money. And then we can eventually go to each school and say, here's 10 balls for your program. So 10 balls and... yeah, it comes up to, if I want to supply all 65 schools, comes up to 19,500 at $30 a ball. So those are the main areas where schools are usually suffering. Is either they don't have money for equipment or coaching fees or their jerseys. So that's the big bulk of it. And if we wanted to supply all the schools with jerseys, that will come up to another $135,000. So we're looking at close to $150,000 a year just for schools rugby for supporting it. So with all these events coming in, we actually want to do that. That's our goal. To whoever wants to come and play rugby, come and give us a proposal that you want to set up rugby in your school, and we will support it. But slowly, little steps, baby steps at a time.
Well, to take an eagle's eye view of all things, you've got your rugby exposure exploding this year, right? From there, I suppose more companies like to invest in rugby, and perhaps that's where the money might come in. What do you think about that?
Well, I'll jump in a bit with Doug. I think it is correct that hopefully we get exposure for companies. I think it's also an education process for the companies. We have to, I think Doug's been working very tirelessly to show them that it's more than just the events that we're looking at, it's the development and everything else. It's more than just guys hitting each other on the pitch. It's the values of the game that we're trying to inculcate that very much will resonate with a CSR program, for example. I think that's why Sport Cares is interested in rugby as more than just the activity, but it's the values of discipline, teamwork, stuff like that in this day and age is very much the soft skills that you want to incorporate in
So that's why with these CSR programs as well, we've got a lot more sponsors coming on board, and they realize that like what John said, there's more to just the playing of the sport. It's not just an elite sport or top 4 schools. We're actually in the heartlands as well. And I just recently refereed an alumni game for Admiralty Secondary School. So a school that you would not think to have rugby culture is having an alumni game. And that's what we want to build on as well. These heartland schools, okay, going and meeting these top powerhouse schools of rugby, and it's not going to be an easy game. You know you're going to walk away battered and bruised. So that's what the Singapore Rugby Union is looking at for our local development. And yeah, the sponsors are slowly trickling in, and they see the value in the sport. They see, I think it's only in rugby that a small Asian guy like me can give a yellow card to a 6 foot, 7 foot player, and they say, "Sorry, ref, it won't happen again." I'm pretty sure in any other sports I would have gone home with a black eye or something already.
Exactly. I mean, I'll jump in just for a little bit here, and it's again the value set that rugby is brings the communities together, and it's been probably in the countries that I played in, Japan for 5 years, France for 6, New Zealand for 8, and it's just there's an encompassing value that the ethnic groups involved is not limited to just a few. It's open to all. So that's, and I see that here in Singapore as well. There's everyone plays the game. I was surprised with the TV shows popping up this year, the Chinese drama, and even now there's a Malay show coming on board as well on TV. I'm just waiting for the Indian one. So it's
working on it.
It is. We're working on it, but it's good. It's I think because the whole community are on board, this makes it a game for all, and this is what rugby is.
Well, a few minutes left to the end of SportsZone. Noah, you wanted to ask about the SEA Games, didn't you?
Yeah. Okay, Jay. Because next year SEA Games 2015 on home soil, it's a 7th tournament, which is right up your alley. Any special preparation you'll be doing until then, especially since you've got your NS letter now? How?
Yeah, I mean, just gonna concentrate on what I've been trying to do, achieve for the past few months, getting bigger and stronger, trying to reach a certain weight that I feel comfortable with, which I feel at my peak. But yeah, just basically just brushing up on my passing skills and tackling, and just getting bigger and faster. Just when you're in the SEA Games, it's much more on the line. It's personal pride, and it's just for the nation.
Okay, and how about you, Gasper? Is the SEA Games a swan song for you in the national team? I mean, how many more years of top-level games do you intend to play in, barring injuries and so on?
I mean, not so much for SEA Games unless there's a 15th to it. Because SEA Games is only 7th, so I'm more of a 15th player than a 7th player. But to look on long term, hopefully I'm 26 this year. Hopefully I can play up to 35. That's probably the age, 35, 36 max. And then, so good 8 to 10 years would be great.
And then will you be going on to coaching like or?
Yes, actually I'm working in the Singapore Rugby Union
okay.
as a Standard Chartered Rugby Development Officer. So I'm actually going around to help schools and doing a lot of coaching. So I actually came up from that background, from young, having all these programs and up there. So now I'm there doing the job.
Right then, well, that's all the time we have for SportsZone today. A big thank you to our guests in the studio, Coach Inoke Afiaki, national players Gaspar Tan and J. Haikel Jalani. And they were joined by SRU's business manager Douglas Danapal and Vice President of High Performance Program Jonathan Liao. Till next time, I'm Noor Farhan.
And I'm Noah Tan.
Take care and bye for now.